One of the early purchases that I got when I started this home arcade was actually a arcade conversion kit for the Nintendo Switch. It's made by Biogenik, so it's the EB Games GameStop brand. And I picked this thing up for about $40 about a couple years ago. I've had it kicking around, and I know that I made a video about this on my TikTok, and some people had commented on it. And so I decided I'd make an expanded review for those of you who are in the market for something like this for your Nintendo Switch. Let's take a look. So the Biogenik Nintendo Switch arcade machine or conversion kit, however you want to call it, this is an out-of-the-box, basically already assembled for you. Really the only thing you have to do is slot your Switch in and play. If you look, there's like a little bracket at the top here that you lift up. There's actually a USB receiving port on here, and on the back there's a pass-through to allow this to charge, so you could technically use this as a charge station as well. I have the feeling that Biogenik was kind of aiming for some people to use this almost as like a full-time device by designing that in this. But as well as that, there's actually two additional buttons that are supposed to basically act as the trigger buttons and the left and right bumper buttons, and they're actually attached to this as well. They're basically just, you push them in and they indent, and they push the buttons on the joycons themselves. The assembly of this thing is actually ultra easy. Like I said, you just slide that screen in, you basically put these little brackets on, screw everything into place onto the joysticks, and you're good to start using this as an arcade conversion machine, essentially. The downside, though, is the way the Joy-Cons are designed. Unfortunately, it kind of makes it a little hard to control. So the orientation's off with the joysticks. As you can see on this menu here, I'm struggling to even select a game right here because the orientation's off. Secondary to that, the buttons themselves that are built in on this, I understand the limitations of trying to map them to those shoulder buttons that are on the Joy-Cons, but they don't work as well as they should. And ultimately, I have tried playing this with other people, and the size does make it a bit of an issue. I understand Biogenik was trying to make this kind of have a nice form factor that matched everything, but even if it was spread apart a bit more between both of the different Joy-Cons placed in that recession inside the unit, that might have made this a little better. But ultimately, the biggest limitation is the Switch itself. The screen isn't that big, and this unit, as a result, starts to feel a bit more like a gimmick. And what I mean is, I comfortably have played on my Miss Pac-Man countercade. Well, I'm not a major fan of that countercade. I understand that there are some people who like these for bar top setups, for having them in a row on like a shelf type of setup. In comparison, though, when you compare this to the Biogenik arcade conversion kit for the Switch, it's substantially smaller. And again, I understand there's some limitations here, but ultimately it doesn't really feel like it works as well as it should. It doesn't feel that comfortable. And there was a time when I was kind of casually using this. I did try playing some NBA games with some of my friends on this, and while it mostly worked, it just didn't work as well as just simply playing on my sofa, and it didn't really add much to the experience as far as I was concerned. So at the end of it, though, this is only like 30-40 bucks or something if you can still get one, so it's not a terrible device, but I would say it's more of a novelty or a gimmick at the end of the day, and I personally don't really have a place for this in my own home arcade at the moment. So take that as you will. Some of you guys might find this thing awesome, some of you maybe not so much, but ultimately it was only like 30-40 bucks, so really proceed with caution. If you can justify that sort of money, it might be a fun little gimmick to play with in your own home arcade.